Hey, everybody, Kevin here, and I just wanted to jump in with a real quick announcement before we get the episode started this week. I know we mentioned at the end of our 2-year anniversary episode that we were going to try to launch a Patreon and a Ko-fi and, different ways to support us in this endeavor moving forward. And through discussing that, we've kind of decided that we're going to kind of switch things up on the podcast front and switch things up kind of on all fronts in general, and not necessarily in a bad way. We've just kind of realized, hey, scheduling has been tough. We've been really, finding it tight to get our schedules together. So I think we're going to switch things up to have the podcast, like core episodes, come out on a bi-weekly basis, where those will be like our numbered episodes. And then the episodes on the off weeks are going to be more like, either interviews with other developers. Those will be probably fewer and further between, but looking to do like some new things that we haven't been able to do. And we always leave a bunch of stuff on the cutting room floor. And even when we're just chatting before, we're rolling on the podcast, when we're off the air, we're always like talking about tons of games, and like, we're always like saying, save it for the cast. So I think we might even end up calling some of the episodes like that, being like the segments or whatever, but we'll see how things go. But we definitely want to make sure we try to keep the podcast on a weekly basis, especially if we're going to look for support from you guys, so we're going to definitely kind of maybe shift gears a little too and focus a lot more on doing the videos on YouTube, which we've been doing like crazy, and Twitch as well. But just wanted to give a heads up on that, and please send any feedback our way as far as the shift in formats. But we've changed things up before, and we're always flying by the seat of our pants. So yeah, with that said, I think we can kick things off and get things started and talk about some video games. Hey, everybody. Welcome to Pursuing Pixels. My name's Kevin Portelli, and I'm here tonight with Randall Nolery.
Hey, folks.
And John Hines.
Hello.
And we are back, as always, to talk about some video games. Mm-hmm. And let's just get right into it. I don't have anything new to say to add in the intro. Not that I ever do, but let's just get right to it, John. And I know you're still. It's been a few weeks, I think, since you've talked about Monster Hunter on the podcast, Monster Hunter Rise, that is. And I know you're still chipping away, and that's the hot new game these days. So how you feeling?
Oh, I just saw credits on this game.
Yeah, man.
And right as I saw credits, they released 2.0. So I was like,
I forgot you said that. Yeah.
Yeah. Like as soon as I was like, all right, I kind of did most of the stuff that's in this game. They're like, hey, you want more into content? You want an additional 60 hours of gameplay?
Oh my God. Is that how much you put in already?
Probably.
Roughly?
I haven't even checked. I don't want to check.
Yeah, probably better.
No,
probably better you don't.
But yeah, I'm really enjoying this game. Like I've mentioned, on previous episodes, how I think they've just really streamlined the whole process of the game. Like
right.
All of the advancement feels really good. Like the actual hunts control really well. Like adding in the wire bug, like grappling hook in all 306. It's more than that. It's what is a sphere? Like right. you can do it in any direction. Like it is honestly one of the best grappling mechanics.
It sounds amazing
in a game.
It sounds really sweet.
Talking my language.
But
because you were saying it almost feels like not quite Spider-Man style, but like you don't have to necessarily connect it to anything, right?
Yeah.
You can just kind of point it
point
in
a place in like all of space, and you will go in that direction. And you can do that twice. Like
why
you
not?
That double grappling hook mechanic is just feels so good. I keep finding sub camps and new secret areas and all the levels. Cool. Like there's so much to do in this game, and I'm going to do it because when I reach credits, I had only advanced my weapon tree or like crafted and forged the weapons for the light bow gun. Like I could at least see 3 tiers at the beginning of it, and like the final 2 had question marks over it, and you couldn't scroll past them. And I still haven't even unlocked the 3rd yet. Like, there's most of the like individual tiers or like weapons that you can do. Like, I haven't even fought the monsters that will unlock that tree. Like, there's so much to do in this game.
So there's still like bosses and stuff you haven't faced off against and whatnot, or monsters, whatever you want to call them.
And that's like kind of the thing, like where I know that we usually use credits as a metric of like, oh, have you beaten a game?
Right.
But it really feels like those credits popped up real early in this game. There's, I don't know. Like, I'm grateful for the fact that there's still so much more content, and that, you know, even with just the 2.0 update, there's going to be more like DLC or anything that comes on down the line.
You know,
so,
it.
Like,
right.
There's no shortage of content that I'm going to be able to have, but I don't know. I appreciate the fact that I can say by our standards, oh, I saw credits, I beat that game.
Yeah, it lets you off the hook.
I'm not even close to being done with this game, though.
Yeah, but how nice, like, picturing that in my head, being able to, like, see credits in Breath of the Wild, and then also being like, but there's so much more to do, which there probably is if I would actually go through and see the credits, depending on, well, I did explore quite a bit and do a bunch of the shrines, but, like, you know, it like, picturing that, I like that idea of, like, hey, I beat this game, but, like, now I can kind of go back to it a little more leisurely, or at least kind of, well, maybe not. It's probably way harder as well after that. But
it's on your terms at that point if you want to.
Exactly.
That's the distinction.
Exactly.
Which is a whole peace of mind.
Yeah. Are you missing having the multiplayer aspect at all, John? And I only asked that because we kind of got into how it's sort of structured like an MMO last time when we talked about it. Like, and I know that you were talking about how you really love it as a single player experience, but are you still feeling that way? Or are you feeling like, maybe I can milk a little more out of this multiplayer?
I mean, I think I would like it if I played it with other people, but for so much of my experience with the series, honestly, is just playing it as a single player game. So I don't know if it would. I don't know if it scales if you have multiple people and like, oh, suddenly like enemies take way longer to kill or anything. And
right.
I mean, it would be fun. I wouldn't mind doing it. Just need to sync up with someone.
Yeah, but it's not a hindrance not being able to play with people online.
Not for me personally.
Yeah, that's what I was asking. I'm glad you're still enjoying it.
Oh, you take it at your own pace that way too, which is nice.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, well, we can probably move on from there to the next kind of hot topic this week, although it's probably a few weeks after by the time this episode comes out. But we all recently checked out some games from the Ludum Dare Game Jam, Ludum Dare 48.
Yeah.
I think I'm saying that right. But the theme,
I've always said Ludum Dare, so the first time that you said that, I was like, God, I have no idea what this is.
I think I've said it like 4 different times in like the videos and streams we've done, or 4 different ways in the videos and streams we've done. Like I never say it the same. I've said it a bunch of different ways. But yeah, we checked out some of the games, and the theme was deeper and deeper. And again, if you're just in case you're unfamiliar with game jams, we've talked about them quite a bit on the podcast in the past. But it's basically you have a limited amount of time with pretty much any size team. Although I did learn some new things while I was streaming some of these games. I actually showcased a bunch of these that we're going to talk about during a stream, and I actually learned that. So I always see the term compo pop up all the time when in relation to these games,
right?
And that if it's a compo entry, that means it's done in 48 hours, all by one person.
See, I don't know about the one person thing, because I saw you on the stream saying that, and other people telling you that, and then but then when I googled it, I'm like, well, that doesn't really hold true with some of these things that they're calling compo. It's still like when I look at the credits, there's like 4 or 5 people. Like, how does that work?
Yeah, I wonder. I was confused by that too when I was streaming, because I was like, I was always under the impression, I'm sure this is wrong too, but like I think we've mentioned too, like a lot of times games will they'll have a really cool idea for a game jam, but maybe there's a couple bugs in the project, or maybe they want to expand the project a little more, so there'll be an update. And I always thought compo meant like this is the post competition. Like this is, I just thought it was like some term that people made up and said, this is the compo version, or the like post-competition.
Right, or just a product of the competition, and then, I don't know. Yeah.
I got that impression. So I guess, I guess we don't know what the answer is on that. But
I tried to look it up.
It's I saw like how they were separated on the Ludum Dare website, but it's still, either way, it doesn't make a ton of sense, and it really doesn't make a ton of difference, at least to us, because we were just playing the games and checking them out. But yeah, Ludum Dare and Game Maker's Toolkit are probably the 2 game jams we've mentioned the most on the podcast in the past. They're probably the 2 most popular. Just get tons and tons of entries from some of our favorite developers that we've discovered over the last couple years. And yeah, we dug into those, and I checked out probably 5 or 6, maybe even 7 of them on the stream the other day. And then I know you guys dug into some. I don't know, which one should we start off with? I mean, we're probably just going to glance off these. We're not going to dig super deep into them, but maybe we'll kick it off with Holey Hell, because that was the one that kind of caught my eye and kind of made me realize that Ludum Dare was in season, because I all of a sudden saw, holy shit, Daniel Linson has a new game.
Right.
And it looks amazing. Like, it's immediately just so eye-catching. It's got these, like, just goopy, fluid circles that just keep, like, zooming further and further in. And essentially, it's a 2D platformer where you're running around, like, the inside of a circle. Completely, there's no gravity. You're just, like, running around the ring of the circle, and you just have to, there'll be different enemies and obstacles to avoid, and you basically just avoid those and grab a key on each stage. Once you grab the key, it opens the door, and then you go through the door to the next stage, and you get a point or whatever for that, and you just try to get as far as you can get. And I was a little bit, I don't even know what to say. I'm at a loss for words right now, because Daniel Linson jumped in on the stream while I was playing. That's awesome. Just like I did just there, I was like fumbling like a little kid with like a crush. I was just like, Daniel's here, and he was like asking for feedback and stuff. It was so cool. Like, man, it was such an awesome experience. I would say, like, that one, it didn't grab me as much, especially as his other games. Like, I'm such a huge fan, and it's so stylish, and I love it. I'm not taking anything away, especially being it's a game jam entry.
Right.
But it did, like, if it had, like, just one more layer to it, if it had, like, every 5 levels you get an upgrade, or you get to get a health back, or get an option to pick between something. Like, it was just missing that extra layer. But again, it was so stylish, so fun, and it was really cool. It's actually a combination of ideas of a bunch of his other games, like Wibble Wobble, Breaker. There's like 4 or 5 games that he outlined that he listed on the page that it was based off of. But I know, John, you got to play a little bit of that one, and I know you guys both kind of checked out the stream a little too.
Yeah, I would say, like, of all the ones that I played, this one was far and away my favorite. And,
interesting.
Like, I actually, like, really love the simplicity of it. Like, I think that it has the exact amount of things that I wanted in, like, kind of an arcade platformer. Like, nice. I love, like, the physics of, like you were saying, like, that wobbly, like, it isn't a circle. It just, like, kind of, like, moves in and out. And if there's, like,
it's like fluid, yeah.
If there's that dotted line, then that sometimes that, like, the platform that you're running on will dip below the dotted line, and it'll turn into something that can damage you.
Like
and then,
lava, like, basically, yeah, or something.
And that, like, just that little bit of uncertainty will also, like, affect, like, will your jump make it over this, like, obstacle, or will that just completely change the trajectory of this projectile of, like, this enemy that's, like, on this moving surface.
The frickin' frogs, man, the way that they jump, it's so dependent. I know, but see, I figured out right towards the end, that was the first game I played on the stream, right towards the end of that, I was like, you can jump over the frogs. Like, I was always trying to go underneath them.
Same.
But it is way more effective to go over the top of them. And then I think one of the best I got on that video was like an 8. And Daniel was like, oh, that's pretty good. And then he was like, oh, I actually haven't played in a while. And then he wasn't in the chat for quite a bit. And then he was like, I'm actually not going to say what my high score is. He's like, I've been playing a lot of this game.
I was going to say mine was 9. Like, I don't think I got.
Oh, you beat me? Heck yeah. But it's hard. I was trying to get to 10 and I just couldn't do it.
But it's a good, just like, like the color scheme is
the style.
It's
great.
It's so awesome, eye-catching, and like it's so cool to be in that world. And there's no music. It's got really just cool arcadey sound effects and like the little scamper of your feet across the ground. It is really cool. Like, again, I know I said, like, almost led off with, hey, this is my least favorite of the bunch, but like I really, really fun. And based on the fact that he was asking for feedback, it has me thinking he's definitely added on to his jam entries in the past. I'm like, okay, there's some potential here for this to get updated. So nice. I am excited on that end. And I guess I'll just go to the one I was the most excited about from there. I checked out Underneath. John checked it out, and I know, Randall, you saw some of it as well.
Yeah.
And it's a game from Cultisti, Human is Red, and Sulo on the music. I think we've mentioned all 3 of those people on previous games.
Yeah.
Cultisti and Sulo have collaborated. I know I almost feel bad talking about yet another Cultisti game, although this one definitely feels a little bit different than their other games. Like, the other ones are way more like minimalist and like, not that this one isn't in some ways, but like they're way more like, I don't want to say artsy, but they just have like more of like a story progression to them. Although this one has that too. I don't even know what I'm trying to say really, but they just feel totally separate. This one, the art was all done by Human is Red, so it definitely just has more of his art style, I guess. But it's completely mouse controlled. It's like a mouse controlled platformer where you are shooting bullets, in the direction that your cursor is aiming, and that's allowing you to propel your character. Basically to jump, essentially. There's no jump button or anything like that. And then you also have the other button on the mouse to go into slow motion, which you can do pretty freely. Like, I mean, it's got its own timer. It's like maybe like a second or two, not much longer than that. But like then when you can almost do it immediately after that. There's like not much cooldown. And I really like how like when you're in that slow mode roll, like when you're shooting, you're not actually propelling your character as far, so you can kind of fine tune your movement a little bit. And I just really loved how this game felt. I've actually played through it 4 times already. Nice. Like I just can't stop playing it. So I love the music. I love the vibe. It just feels so fluid. And this is me talking, who's always like, I hate mouse and keyboard controls. And I know this is only mouse, but like it really had me on the edge of my seat like that. Just whipping the mouse around and like not being able to ever really do the same thing twice. Like I can't memorize the movements. I really got to execute it every time. I got really hooked on this game. The movement feels so good. And I love the art style and music, like I said, but what did you guys think?
I had to end up like playing it in full screen because I kept clicking outside of the game.
Oh, no. Same.
Like at one point I like opened up Steam and I'm like, what the hell is happening? Oh my God.
I was doing the same thing the first time I played.
Yeah. But no, I liked it. Like I enjoyed it, but like there was a point where like I was just getting to puzzles that were too much for me, and I was like, you know what? I've been running my head against this, trying to get like a precision thing, because most of the levels, at least the ones I played, like had a decent amount of length to them, but like they don't have checkpoints or anything. So like,
oh boy,
I would get to a point where I've like cleared maybe like 6 jumps or like getting around like ricochet like floors or walls of
because your bullets later in the game there'll be floors and walls that are your bullets will now start bouncing off of the walls and will hit you, and they will there's some rooms that are pretty much coated with those floors and walls, so like your bullets are flying constantly.
Oh yeah. So yeah, it got maybe a little bit more steep than I was ready to have, but like the controls felt really good. I liked the very simple, just mouse like left, right click and left click. Like it felt really good, and I liked that.
Controls need to be tight, considering all the tight corridors you're rolling through that are spikes lined on all walls.
Yes. Yeah, everywhere spikes, and like you were saying, I was surprised there was as many puzzles as there were, like triggering switches, and like you got to hit these 3 switches to get back to the exit of the level that was actually at the start of the level. Mm-hmm. Just really cool stuff. Nice. And I'm just excited. I was hoping this would be the one that would suck you into the world of Cultisti, John, but we'll get you there.
Yeah,
we'll get you there.
Maybe one more of the atmospheric games than the precision platforming.
Atmospheric is such a better word than artsy that I said earlier. I feel like an idiot for saying that, but. Anyways, but they are like extremely artistic, so I don't feel that bad for saying it. But but yeah, one more I wanted to mention real quick, or I guess we got a couple more to rattle off. But Grapple Tongue was also just a freaking blast. It kind of has this Sega Master System almost vibe to the aesthetic, and you basically play as this penguin that can shoot your tongue out. You're climbing a mountain, Celeste style, trying to get to the top, and you just basically can shoot your tongue in one of 8 directions. Actually, I don't think it's fully octo-directional, because I don't think you can fire like downwards or any of the directions downwards, but like you can fire left, up, right, or like the diagonals, and there's some walls that have like grass on the side that you can't grab with your tongue, and basically it just gets harder and harder. There's spike walls just like underneath. And you just eventually, like, you really got to get into the precision zone of, like, okay, you can grab the spikes with your tongue, but you can't touch them with your character. But then there'll be lasers later on that you can't even touch with your tongue. But it was really impressive. It took me, like, about 20 minutes to play through. Like, it was a pretty decent length for a Game Jam game. I just really liked how, like, when you got to the first, like, main checkpoint and got to the next area, the music kicks in.
That's nice.
Like, it just had, like, a really, really nice presentation. I was like, I got to check out more games from these guys. I think it was from Mars Games.
Seems like they did a lot, too, with the puzzles as far as those blocks that you could grab onto with your tongue that would go up, in the air.
Yeah, they either had an arrow pointing up or down, and they would be like an elevator almost.
Yeah. Pretty cool stuff.
Yeah, I thought it was really cool. I thought it was a really, really cool game. And the extra collectibles. I think there were like 4 or 5 little like hidden like stuffed animal penguins along the way that you could collect. And I did get all of them, I think, unless there was a hidden one I missed. But
nice.
I know we all took a little time to check out, or at least I know you did, Randall. I don't know if you had a chance to check this one out, John. Frog, that was actually developed for the NES. But I know, Randall, you and I both played through this one.
Yeah, it didn't take too much to do, which I really appreciate.
Yeah, that's also the best part about these jam games. Like, you can just like kind of fire up, like, browse the page and like, oh, this looks cool. Let me try this and try it for a few minutes. But this one, it took me less than 5, I think, to play through this one. But it just had such a cool style. Like, that character immediately caught my eye. That character sprite.
The art is beautiful.
Yeah, did you play this on hardware, Randall?
I did, yeah.
Nice.
I downloaded the ROM and I loaded it up on the NT Mini because, why not? And that was a really fun way to play it, like with the actual NES controller and everything. So really cool game, Frog. Like the main aspect is it's almost like a bubble bobble type of mechanic where you shoot the bubble out of your frog's mouth. The big difference here, like, you can bounce on it just like you can in Bubble Bobble, but the difference here is you can also control the bubble once it's out of your mouth with the D-pad.
Like the elevation of it.
Yeah, up and down. And, and then you can bounce on it to go left and right. So a lot of control given to you with that spit bubble and really the main thing you're doing is just kind of traversing through the level. I think almost all of them were kind of single screen.
Yeah, I think they were all single screen, kind of like arcade platformer, like just get to the end of the stage. Yeah, I don't remember any scrolling going on.
Yeah, which is fine. It was cool. And some of the last couple levels are a bit tricky. You'll probably die quite a few times just trying to thread the needle with your bubble because it's one hit and you're retrying. Thankfully, there's no lives. Done. So as you die,
infinite
you're just restarting
attempts.
that level. So
no, but and it's definitely got a ton of potential. It's just a really cool thing. And then again, just to see that pop up, like, oh, there's an NES game that just popped up in a game jam. Super cool.
Yeah.
One more. I just want to give a quick shout out because we're always singing the praise of Connor Grail on the tunes. And I checked out this other game called Tooth Toss that you play as like this ladybug with like this giant sword. That as soon as you grab the sword, and Connor Grail does the music, and this was like a team of like 5 or 6 people. I think Mad Nukin was the main developer. But again, we'll put the links. There's a pretty big team on this one. I think they said they met for the game jam, like never met before, and then worked on this game together. And it's like just a really cool, same thing, arcadey platformer. There's like 5 or 6 stages with one mini boss and one like extra boss with a little bit of scrolling. Really great pixel art. Again, amazing tunes. And you basically just, when you can double jump and run around, but when you grab your sword, you can't move at all. And then you can throw it at like a 90-degree angle, which kind of doesn't make sense. Like, I can't, it's too heavy for me to move, but I can chuck it all the way across the screen. But the mechanic is awesome because you can sometimes like throw it, like jump and catch it in the air and then throw it again. And you got to kill all the enemies. And then on that stage or whatever, and then the pit, again, the theme's deeper and deeper. So the like pit opens up, you drop down to the next level, kill those enemies, and then again you get to like some enemies that have take more than one hit with the sword, and eventually you kind of face off against like a bee boss, or no, it's a spider boss. There's like a bee mini boss and then a spider boss where you have to kind of rescue your friend at the end. And I ended up playing through that one like 2 or 3 times. I really, really enjoyed, like, the controls just felt so good and expressive.
Yeah.
And it was so short and sweet. Like, I was like, that was just fun. Let me play that again.
Yeah, the expressive control part. I watched you play this in particular on the stream, and like just how the sword bounced off of enemies, I thought was really slick too.
When you could chain it, and like when it would bounce, because they're like these slugs that are like, it looks so nice, like just bouncing off them and then hitting one of those like mosquito enemies or whatever.
Yeah. No, it was that game in particular. I'm like, oh, I want to play this. And Kevin, you made it look a lot of fun. Kevin is very good on the streaming. If you folks aren't watching him on Twitch, watch Pursuing Pixels, because Kevin does it a lot and he's good at it.
I've been doing it a little more lately. Thanks, man. Yeah, it's been fun. We've been doing. I got a few more to mention before we wrap up later on the episode, because we've been getting into some import stuff too, like some retro import stuff. So we'll get to that a little later.
Oh yeah.
But speaking of the retro stuff and keeping it in the game jam realm, Randall and. Speaking of people we've heaped on the praises. Morphcat, we are just in love with these folks.
Yes.
They put out another game for an NES game jam competition. Now, this was a game jam where every game was kind of developed for the NES, or was developed for the NES.
Right.
But I think, Randall, you were the one that put this on our radar, or maybe somebody put it in our Discord or something. I don't know. I just remember we've kind of found it at the same time.
After
we were just like, we got to play this.
Bobble and, after Micro Mages, I started following them, Morphcat games, anywhere I could. I'm like, I need to play the games that these people continue to make. And like, they're an active NES developer right now, obviously, because they just released this as of the time of recording, like a couple of weeks ago, essentially. So Space Gulls is the latest from them. And they made it for the NES Dev Compo 2020, 2021, essentially. They made it in 1 week, and they won first place for this game. Yeah.
Nice.
And, I haven't played the other ones, although you can follow a link to get a kind of a zip file of all of the NES
all of
games.
them. I saw that. Yeah, well, I'll try to put that in the episode description. I will put that in the episode description. I've been a little better about that lately, of putting the links that I say I'm going to put there. So it'll be there. It'll be there, because that'll be cool to check out.
Oh, yeah. I want to check them all out, too. I kind of feel bad that I haven't, but I definitely will for the future, because I'm such a sucker for these new NES releases, especially the bite-sized ones like this. It's so cool.
Yeah. It was almost like a mini Bobble in a way.
Yeah, it is. There's a lot of similarities to Bobble or Bobble or however we decide to pronounce it.
I can't believe I actually just committed to one pronunciation. Yeah.
But very similar in that, like, the levels kind of like it's like one world, even though, each area is kind of single screen for the most part, that you're kind of traversing through with your Space Gull character, who, the main button is A, to jump / fly, and you're just kind of flying around, and you're bouncing generally off the top of enemies to kill them. And they do some kind of clever work with the enemies where, some of them will shoot up, but they kind of telegraph when they're going to, so you kind of wait until they do. As you get further in the game, there's enemies that have like a blade, and they're just like, if they feel you in their range, they're just like trying to hit you with that blade like above their head, and they are tough to land a hit on.
And they look sweet. The sprite work in this game, again,
beautiful.
For a game jam game. I know that we played the version that I think was updated a little bit after the jam, but I don't think too much. They said they added like a little bit extra music, like a little bit of extra level stuff, but not too much. I don't think it's really changed that much from the original experience.
No, I don't think so either. Not too terribly much. But yeah, you can beat it in like, I think it took me a little over half an hour the first time. I actually went through and beat this again just because I was having such a good time.
Yeah, I almost did the same. Just like I did with Bobble too, just like fire it right back up. Like, and it's worth mentioning this one's 2 players as well.
Yeah,
you can play co-op. I feel like that would be harder, maybe, or easier. I don't know for sure.
I know. Yeah.
But it even had like the stuff like, just like I was saying with Grapple Tongue, like it had like the hidden collectibles, just like Bobble, like the rubber duckies. Like there were, I think, 4 little hidden birds that you could collect. I got 3 of the 4. I don't know if you got all 4. Randall.
I got 3 of the 4, and I saw the 4th one.
Same here. I saw it, and I was like, I didn't see anywhere I could access that.
And I don't know that I really finished my thought on why this is like Bobble, but it's one of the ways is what Kevin described of collecting these like extra collectibles that, at the end of the game, they're there on the end screen essentially. But you find them typically by, there's little kind of halfway secret alternate routes, and those routes kind of tend to snake around the existing level structures in very like interesting and smart ways. I just love the way they design games that way.
Yeah, it was really fun to like see like, oh, that's that area I was just in or was in way earlier. Because you will like when you go through those secrets, like you're pretty much, there's no dangers. You're just kind of traversing through these like single tile tunnels, but you're like going through quite a bit of the map, and then you're like, oh man, I'm all the way back here.
Yeah.
Like, oh, that's where that penguin is.
Yep.
And then sometimes you see those that little extra hallway that you clearly can't access when you're in a room, and you're like, okay, there's something around here. Like, I got to be able to get over there. But yeah, it's definitely just like Bobble in that sense that, it's just one big like interconnected world, but you're not necessarily picking up new abilities along the way.
No.
I did think it was kind of funny where it said on the description of the game, it was like, this is a combination of like Joust and Mega Man 2 or something like that is what they compared it to.
Mega Man,
I definitely see the Joust comparison, but I was kind of thinking, I was like, I don't know if I see the Mega Man comparison other than the health bar.
The health bar and like, I guess there's a lot of verticality, like in some of the Mega Man stages.
And I guess like the spread, I guess the enemies are all kind of robots. Maybe that's what they meant. They're like all like kind of mech robot enemies.
Yeah, that generally shoot projectiles at you, not exclusively, but most of them do. But yeah, it's definitely way more Joust / like balloon fight. And it controls just as good, if not better, than those games, as far as I'm concerned.
Oh, it controls like a dream, man. It feels so good, never frustrating.
Yeah.
All the checkpoint stuff. Oh, speaking of, the checkpoints are so cool. They're like these huge, massive save buttons that like just feel so good to land on, especially when you're like fluttering in. Like, it's almost like Super Mario World style when you land on like the Switch Palace thing. Like, they're almost like that big and juicy. And just like, save, baby. Like, and after you complete some of the challenges, you're just like, fuck yeah. Like, it feels good to hit those save points.
It does.
Because it's not an easy game. It's not a cakewalk.
No, I would definitely not say that. And it also feels good too on the enemies, as like you're bouncing on top of their heads, the ones that take multiple hits, just like the way you can kind of juggle that with your character in a purposeful way. Just, man, they only spent a week on this thing and it just feels so good. They just know what the hell they're doing.
It's crazy. And then after that video of them cramming micro mages onto a 40 kilobyte cartridge, and like, I cannot wait to see what these folks do next, whether on the NES or otherwise. You know, I mean, I'd love to see them keep working in that sphere, but anytime I see someone doing cool stuff, I'm just like, I don't just do it. I'm just happy with them doing what they want to do, as long as they keep making cool stuff.
One of my favorite developers going right now. Like,
I can't say I disagree, man. I can't say I disagree. They're definitely like one that as soon as I see it, I'm like, ooh.
It's like, oh, here we go.
They got something new, just like I was with Daniel Linson. Like, he's got something new. I got to play it. Morphcat, got to play it. But yeah, I think we can probably move on from there into some of John's. I know actually, I think last week we talked about, or recently we talked about how we kind of got some of our computers set up and whatnot and kind of started playing into like getting into some old Game Boy Advance games and getting into just checking out some games that we either haven't played or haven't talked about much. But John, what have you been playing?
So in addition to that, we've also recently did our anniversary episode where we were talking about our comfort games.
Yes, sir.
That's right. Yeah.
And I was of a couple minds on which game I was going to bring to the table for that. So, you know, I was revisiting some old classics, some games that I've put in a sizable amount of time into. And one of those games is the original Game Boy Advance Castlevania, which was a release title I discovered
launch
title for the Game Boy Advance.
I remember going into EB Games to pick it up along with a couple other games.
Circle of the Moon.
Yep.
Which it is very much of a very specific. It was the beginning of a specific era of like Konami Castlevanias, where, you know, it kind of hit a renaissance with the Game Boy Advance, where you were getting a ton of games specifically modeled kind of after Symphony of the Night.
Yes, sir.
It really changed the series from like what it had been before Symphony of the Night, and you know, it cemented it as like, okay, this is what the games are going to be like going forward. They're all going to be like heavy RPG elements. You'll get like, you know, your abilities that unlock new areas, and you are revisiting old areas in the map over and over again.
What a great formula. It's awesome.
It's, I'm so grateful that they made that decision. I know that, you know, DJ has made it clear that he prefers, you know, the earlier Castlevania format to the.
And some of those
Symphony
games
of
are
the
sweet too, but I think
yeah.
Symphony is like the Castlevania, and these as an extension.
I still need to really put time into any of these. Yeah, I mean, I've put a little bit of time into one of the ones on DS. I don't even remember which one, but I've never played
Order
Symphony of the Night. No, I own them all. I own every handheld Castlevania, I think, or I own all 3 DS ones. But I think it was Portrait of Ruin, maybe. Mm-hmm. I think I beat that one with a bad ending, but I beat it. Saw the credits, as we say.
Yes.
Oh yeah, that counts.
There you
go. But yeah, Circle of the Moon. It's like I was doing a little bit of digging where I was reading some of the like reviews at the time, and Koji Igarashi actually didn't work on this title. The people who did work on the title actually ended up making or turning into Good Feel. Wario Shake It Up, the Yoshi's Crafted World, Kirby's Epic Yarn team.
Those are awesome games.
Those games are
those
great
are all
too.
Really good.
Yeah.
I didn't know they did the Wario Land Shake It game.
That game's
too.
sweet.
Yeah. But
it's gorgeous.
Yes.
Gorgeous.
It's just like I know that people prefer the later GBA games for like Aria of Sorrow is like I think the gold standard or like what is held up as like the best of the 3. Mm-hmm. But I just have a soft spot for this one. Like it's a lot slower than those. It's ways more zoomed out. Your character sprite is a lot smaller than in the other games, and movement, like you can't even run right off the bat. That is an upgrade that you get after the first mini boss in the game. And like, but I don't know, something about it just is, I love the like DSS card system, which is how you use your magic. And like, but I was trying to beat the game again because the game unlocks different modes that like will like, this one like just maxes out your intelligence stat. So, but all of your regular attack is just garbage. So you have to lean heavily on the magic in the game. Or this one is like, you have no magic bar and like, it's just regular attacks. And so like the game has so many like modes in it that you can just, I personally like could replay it. I have played every single version of it over and over again, and like I just love it. Like I don't know.
Well, I'm kind of curious, John, because we kind of talked about this a little bit in the Discord too, but like you and I like always seem to like, I always strike out when I recommend Metroidvanias to you, and like and then or even when I recommend like platformers and this and that, and like I'm always like, man, I know you like platformers, like I think you like Celeste, right? Like I'm not like off base, like there's stuff, but what is it like? Is it the story and the RPG elements in those games? I know those are like more story in Celeste, more RPG and story in Castlevania and stuff, but is it like that added layer that makes it a little more enticing as opposed to?
I think it's the exploration. Like when I think about playing like Mario World, which is one of my, I guess I think of that as my gold standard of just like 2D platformers.
Same.
Like, I know that level inside and out, or like each individual level inside and out, and I know where to go and I know what to do. And like even when I'm thinking about like Celeste, like those were enjoyable like areas to like explore and like solve the little puzzles in.
Yeah.
And like I don't know, like sometimes when I'm playing, like these like absolute precision platforms that's just like, you have to hit this jump at this exact time, at this exact angle in order to proceed. I'm like, this isn't what I come to these games for. Like, I'll enjoy doing that to a point, but like once that is the like focus of a game, like that's just not what I'm into. And like, I don't know, I do like just kind of taking my time in games. Like when I think about even like playing Hollow Knight, like most of that time I'm not really playing with a purpose. I'm not really playing to like either advance the story. I'm just exploring and like maybe fighting some enemies or fighting a boss, but like I'm really just enjoying my time in a world, and like that's kind of what I default to. And like even for like the more focused, less exploration games, like say like Super Mario World, or even when I played Mario 3 somewhat recently, like that was still just me like the act of going back and replaying the game was the exploration. It wasn't necessarily like, I don't know, in the way that you would explore in a Metroidvania per se.
Yeah. No, I see what you're saying. Whereas, like, I think a lot of times with me, like, I'm always either afraid of getting stuck or I'm actually stuck. Mm-hmm. And like, whereas like with a linear game or more linear game, I just kind of know like, oh, I just need to keep moving along. Like maybe I'm missing secrets or something, but as long as I keep progressing. It's funny you mentioned Hollow Knight because I've been playing a little bit of Ori and the Blind Forest, which I'm not really going to talk about because I know that's your resolution game, Randall. But I was kind of thinking between, I don't know why that and Hollow Knight always get paired in my head, and I kind of am thinking like Ori is more platforming focused, and I think that's why I like it more. Where Hollow Knight is more like combat focused. There's tons of platforming, but to me, that's like the combat is the highlight of Hollow Knight, and just like the world and atmosphere if you're into that thing, which I know I've said it's not my style per se, but like I just really enjoyed I lost my train of thought.
Just the platforming focus of Ori, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
that's actually kind of exactly the same with me. Like I just prefer like Hollow Knight's approach as opposed to the Ori approach, which I still enjoy, but like there were plenty of times in Ori where I was just like completely frustrated because I had to hit like a platforming section. I'm like, this is just not what I come to these games for.
Yeah, I have a feeling you also like the inventory collectible aspect of those type of games, John.
Oh, buddy. Yeah. You know that if there's a checklist of like useless shit to have,
you guys and your Diablo, man.
Glom onto that. Yeah.
Yep.
I opened with Monster Hunter. Like I'm not using any of these weapons I'm forging. I'm just putting them in an inventory slot.
Yeah, I'm just filling out this skill tree. Yeah. 100%. That's hilarious. But that is funny because I always tend to be disappointed by Metroidvanias because I'm like, there's not enough platforming in these, but they are platformers in a way. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I don't know. It's a mixed bag for me. Any thoughts on that on your end, Randall?
Oh, no, I kind of split the difference, although I guess I don't know. I would say I'm more on John's perspective, but I do like just kind of pure platformers too. So like, I don't know. I'm kind of a potpourri that way. I like a mix of everything. Although I don't find myself gravitating towards Metroidvanias as often, but man, that Symphony of the Night template in particular always hooks me. Oh my God. Yeah. I didn't grow up with PlayStation, but when I finally got the chance to play Symphony of the Night on 360, I saw it the whole way through and I loved it. And then
that's when I first bought it, and I never got around to it for whatever reason.
So good. And then that was already after that I had, bought Circle of the Moon and the other Game Boy Advance games, and the DS ones. So like you, Kevin, I own all of those, but I've only really played in a real way a couple of them, which is a shame. I need to get back to those too. So hopefully I can.
Yeah. Well, I'm just going to reverse what I just said, actually, because I'm actually just going to, before we wrap things up tonight, I was doing some import streaming, like I was saying, and I was actually playing this game, Ufouria, the Saga.
Yeah, man.
Which is an NES Metroidvania. Mm-hmm. Yet another one from Sunsoft. Mm-hmm. Like, these guys are just killing it in the NES era. And this game is incredible. I got actually pretty decently far into it. It's actually a pretty large series in Japan. This is a game that never came out in North America and first kind of dropped on my radar when they put it on the Wii Virtual Console. Yep. And it just really eye catching. It just immediately, if you like that NES aesthetic, just like we were talking about with Frog earlier, it's just like, oh, that looks cool.
Lots of personality in Ufouria.
That's literally the word that was the next word that was going to come out of my mouth. It's just oozing personality. Your main character is Bop Louie, and you just run around and when you kill an enemy, they turn into like a little like goop ball, or almost like it's almost like a dodgeball. You pick it up and then you can throw it at enemies, and but only one will be on the screen. Like if you go jump on another enemy, then that enemy will turn into the dodgeball thing or whatever.
Right.
And the reason I say dodgeball is because when you there's 4 different playable characters, and when you meet the next ones, you have to battle against them to be like, hey, you forgot you're my friend or whatever. But you would have a dodgeball match against them. You have a new separate health bar, and it's like you gotta whoever hits the person 5 times first with this ball that you throw at each other. And just the characters are super cute, super zany,
super emotive.
And there's more abilities than I was expecting. Like, just as I was wrapping up the stream, I got the ability to climb up the walls with Bop Louie.
Nice.
And when he climbs, he like squirms like a worm almost. Like, you just kind of, and same thing on the ground. There's like a dinosaur character that you get when you do the crawl on the ground. They like lay on their back and like squirm on the ground. It's like, it's the craziest game. But it's so cool. And yeah, again, apparently the series is kind of big in Japan.
I didn't realize that.
I didn't either. There's like a Super Nintendo kind of like top down, almost like Power Stone style fighting game.
Wow.
That's maybe overselling it a little, but it's actually on the Japanese Virtual Console, so we could maybe even try to play that online, Randall.
Okay.
Maybe.
Nice. Okay.
If that works, because I'm curious to check it out. But yeah, like they even changed the character sprites a little bit for the European version over the even Bop Louie. Like, he looks different in the Japanese version.
Weird. Of
the NES game. It's super weird. But just a really cool game, getting more abilities than I expected to get. But I thought it was just going to be swap the 4 characters, but I've gotten like an upgrade ability with each character. There's still a few I need to get, but it seems like that's going to be the case with each character. And it's just really fun. It's a little different. The only thing you got to remember is you have to press down to land on enemies. It's very weird. You can't just jump on them.
Oh.
You have to be jumping and then hold down. I remember
I
remembered that from the Wii.
Okay, I booted this a little bit yesterday, and I'm like, why am I so bad at this now? I've played this before. I played it on Wii, and that makes more sense now. Okay.
You have to like press down to like stomp, essentially.
Okay.
Like, you can see the animation kind of changes. But yeah, there's just like really cool, quirky characters, and I'm maybe going to see this one through so that maybe I will beat a Metroidvania. But just a couple others I wanted to rattle off, because I found a fan translation, English translation of the Densetsu no Stafy, which is the very first game in the legendary Stafy series, which there are 5 of those games.
Yeah.
Only one of which ever got released outside of Japan. We got the very last one on DS, the 5th game.
Yeah.
But I went back and played the first game on Game Boy Advance. I've never played the DS one, even though I own it. And I actually ended up playing all the way through it on stream the other day. Like, I played a little bit earlier, and then I ended up playing for like 2.5 hours. John, you were in the stream. Mm-hmm. And I was getting a little frustrated with like the NPCs, in particular Mo, your little clam partner that tries to take all the credit for everything that you do. Like, just like he literally everything you do, he's like, well, I'll take care of it. And then you just do it as Stafy. Mm-hmm. But it's like it's interesting. So the first game, I just started playing the second game in the series, and the first game I would just say is like, you got to play it because you need that English translation to kind of learn the mechanics and get how the game works. But the second game takes like the kind of more open level approach. Like the first game is kind of like one level is kind of open ended and you explore a bunch. So here, getting back into what we were talking about a minute ago, like you explore a bunch and they're smaller, but you got to complete a bunch of puzzles and challenges in different rooms, where the second game is just like level 1-1, level 1-2, level 1-3, but it's all in Japanese. But having that background of having played the first game, I can kind of know, okay, this is what this segment's all about. This is the save system. This is whatever. Because otherwise it works almost exactly the same, but it just got that really cutesy Kirby style.
Big time.
I'm sure we're going to talk, like, as soon as I'm going to be playing through probably this whole series. Like, I am loving it.
Nice.
Especially now that, like, I'm loving it even more now that I'm playing the second game. I played through about the second world, and I'm like, man, this is sweet.
And that makes sense, too. You're a pretty big Kirby guy, so...
Yeah, and it's interesting because it's kind of half underwater and half on land. And the second game is so far offering more on land platforming, which is more my style. But the underwater platforming kind of feels more like controlling Kirby in the air when you're floating. Okay. You know, kind of you don't have to press a button to swim or flap your arms or whatever. You just kind of like press the direction you want to swim in.
Or like like the frog suit in Mario 3.
Exactly like that. Yeah. It's really, really cool. And then, I think soon we're probably going to get into some pinball arcade stuff on the podcast in a future episode. So to kind of lead into that and tease it a little, I did a stream of Kururin, which is my best attempt at pronouncing that, which is, I just wanted to mention this game too, because it's one that maybe we can take a deeper dive on a later episode if we all can check it out. But like, you literally just control a spinning stick that spins pretty slowly through a maze, and this is a first party. This was also a launch GBA title, but never came to North America. It was in Europe and Japan. But yeah, you just control this spinning stick that you just can't touch the walls, almost like Operation or something, if you remember that board game, but a little more intense, obviously. But they just add so much charm and character to this game. Like instead of like being just this spinning stick, you're actually like this little super cute duck character that like jumps into like this little circular pod, and then it like closes up almost like a Pokeball on top, and then it like when it zooms out, it's like, oh, those are like, and then it's got propellers, and then like when it zooms out, it's like the little circle in the center is the pod, and then the two sticks are your propellers. But it's like, it's just so like such like a game that could just be so bland and still fun, but like could have just been like a game jam idea, or like, oh, this is cool to play and cool to check out, but not much to it. Like it just takes that to the next level, and it gets challenging because you can hold one of the face buttons down to go one speed. Like you can move, you basically can just move in any direction. But then you can hold down one face button to move like a second gear, and then both to move a third gear. So you have like 3 different speeds to shift between.
Nice.
And you just have to constantly be navigating around and not hitting the walls and obstacles. But it just kind of gave me that pinball feeling, but it was another one I just had a really hard time putting down. And I'm probably going to just be doing, like you were saying earlier, Randall, doing some streams. Like I've been going to do some more of these import streams, especially the Stafy series. I'm going to be chipping away at that for a while. So
nice.
Let me know if you guys want to dig into those a little deeper, or any of these any of these import games. I think we got a pretty hefty list of games we want to chat about on the podcast. So we'll get into pinball another time, I think. But I think we can probably wrap things up there this week if everybody's feeling good. I think I'm done rambling for now. But yeah, as always, you can find us on the internet at pursuingpixels.com. And otherwise, there's a nice handy place to find us everywhere else at linktree/pursuingpixels. You can find our Discord, YouTube, Twitch, Twitter, all the social media stuff. And yeah, I think that's pretty much a good place to call it, guys. Take care, and we'll catch you next week.
Bye-bye.
See ya.
But like the games I really want to dig into on the Game Boy Advance with you guys are any of those Bit Generations games.
Yes.
Are fucking incredible. I just learned the rules of Colorus a little bit better. So like there'll be tiles on the screen, and there'll be any of 4 colors, and your cursor, like let's just say it's like red, and then like a little bit lighter of a reddish orange, and then a little bit lighter, and then a yellow, and it's like, you know, a progression of colors. But the cursor will always be the darkest red or the lightest yellow, like the furthest color on each side, and it'll kind of swap between those at random. And then so if the cursor's yellow, if you go to a red tile and click on it, it'll move it one shade closer to the yellow. If you click on the red tile, so if it's a yellow cursor and a yellow tile and you click on it, you can't do anything. And then like and then you just try to shift it and get match 3 essentially, or get combos. And then it like over time, like if you don't complete combos, then blocks start disappearing and the color goes away. Like, and then there's different, like, you know, like an X-shaped block that if you blow that one up, it blows up everything, and it's so cool.
That sounds awesome.
It is. When I was playing it, I was like almost immediately like, John, you got to play this.
Yes.
It's really musical. Like the music is kind of just what you moving the cursor is kind of the music almost.
Nice.
And like the soundtracks on these games on Dot Stream and stuff are just fucking slam. I was like, is this the real soundtrack of this game? Like, I thought it like somebody patched something in. I was like, I can't believe this is Game Boy Advance, man. I'm jamming.
I didn't mention it on the Circle of the Moon thing, but it has the chunkiest bass. Like it sounds like they really wanted to make sure that it sounded like a slap bass.
Yeah. Oh, maybe they wanted it to make sure it could like pump through that GBA speaker. Like, we want you to hear this bass. You know,
it's very high on the neck.
Yeah, Jay, that's John style.
That
baby.
is. That's where I got it from.